Hello, this is DJ Ocean Spray, and you're listening to WKNC 88.1 FM HD1 Raleigh, and this is another episode of the Stripdown. For this interview, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Sadurn before their show in the Cradle back room. And so here is my chat with the band. Hello, this is DJ Ocean Spray, and today I'm with the band Sadurn before their performance in the Cradle back room. So to start off with, can all of you introduce yourselves with your name and where you're originally from?
My name's G. I'm from Boston.
My name is Amelia, and I'm from a lot of different places.
I'm Tabitha, and I'm from Long Island in New York.
I'm John, and I'm from Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
So when did Sadurn, the project, begin, and how did you guys meet each other?
So, we met basically, so it was at an open mic, or this is where G and I met. We were both at an open mic 2 blocks from where we lived in West Philly, and I played first, and G played last. And there's a lot of people played, it felt like 20 people. And we met, this open mic. I saw G play, and we got to talking. We realized we were neighbors. We lived across the street from each other. And we were like, what? And G was like, oh, I've heard the band's playing in your house. And we started hanging out and playing music together and stuff. But yeah, that's how G and I met.
Do you want me to tell him?
I guess, John and I met in 2017, early 2017, and that's when I had started playing shows for the first time under a different project name. It was called Vive. We ended up getting a cease and desist from one DJ Vive who had trademarked the name. But it was, I think, in the fall of that year that John first played on a show with Vive, so it was the 2 of us.
Wait, which ironically I think was in the same house where we met, in the living room, was it?
At the pharmacy.
I played mandolin.
At the pharmacy.
I played on one song on the mandolin at the waiting room in the basement.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So it was in the same house.
Yeah,
weirdly.
Yeah, maybe not the first show, but
I mean, the first time I
What?
played with you.
There's some dispute.
there's a little bit of a dispute about what our first show was.
I wouldn't consider that our first show. I was just saying the first time we played together when I played.
Maybe we noodled.
on one song.
Oh,
It was at
okay.
the same house.
Well, yeah, that house is special in our origin
Seems
story, I
important
guess.
all of a sudden, yeah.
This is a little rambling, but yeah, basically, we were Vive. It was me and John in 2017, and then Tab and I met in 2016 in Philly, and then we were roommates. And
How did we meet? I feel like I met G and Tab the same night because I was visiting Philly, and it was my first time in Philly, and they took me out. This is in 2017. They took me out to one of the house venues in West Philly. It was called All Night Diner, and I was blown away. I thought everyone was the coolest people ever that I'd ever met, and I was so I would have been intimidated because they were so cool, but everyone was so nice that I felt very welcomed. And we saw Emily Yasina play, and that was amazing. And then we played fun word games and drawing games all night long, and then we were best friends after that.
And then we didn't start playing as a 4-piece until late 2019, and we had one show as a 4-piece in 2020, right before everything closed down. So yeah, it started off as kind of G's project under a different name. Then John joined as a duo for 2-ish, 3-ish years, and then we all joined. Amelia and I started playing. We added a rhythm section.
And so how did each of you kind of get into music? Did you come from a musical family, or when did you kind of began your relationship with creating music?
I personally didn't start playing guitar until I was like 23 or so, pretty shortly before meeting G. And kind of, G and I kind of met at a moment, I think, where maybe they had just started writing songs, and they inspired me to write my own songs. And so I feel like we kind of mutually inspired each other to start doing music, or at least you inspired me.
I love this question. I on this subject of being inspired by your peers, the first time I saw G play, I was filled with jealousy and envy because their songs were so amazing and their performance was so captivating that I used to, like, I was writing songs and playing songs at the time, but after that show, I kind of like went back to the drawing board and I was like, okay, like I got to start over. Like I have to write a song as good as like Friends with Your Friends. And I was like singing it to myself all week and I was filled with jealousy.
I didn't know.
I played it cool.
That's really cute.
But my family, I would say they were pretty musical. They were always playing music. Well, actually, they would only play one band around the house, which was the band Dire Straits, which is a rock band from the 80s.
You were listening today.
They came on the radio today, and I felt this like surge of childhood nostalgia for just always listening to Dire Straits all the time. And you know, I think you can probably hear the influence in my drumming. I sound like an 80s rock band. But I have an exclusive secret to reveal on this radio show, which is I always tell people that I never played the drums until I joined Sadurn, which is technically true because I didn't really know what I was doing. But I'm going to reveal to everybody today that that's a lie. I actually had played an electronic drum set in high school. I begged my parents for this drum set from Costco. It was $120. And they brought it home for me from Costco and they gave it to me as a Christmas gift. And you could hook up your iPod to like play along to stuff. And I would play in my room when I was like 16, 17. And I would only play along to one song, which was Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye. And I would just put it on repeat and I would just like play along.
And that is the heart of Saturn. You can feel the pulse and the movement of that song. It permeates through everything in Saturn.
It's true. So that's my secret. But I wasn't really that good. I did that for, in high school, but then I didn't play drums until I literally joined the band Sadurn for this show we just talked about in 2020 before the pandemic. And I felt a lot of imposter syndrome because I didn't really know what I was doing because I had only played along to that one song before. But I played guitar before then, and I think that playing guitar translates very well to playing drums later because you have good rhythm. But I'm rambling. That's my musical history. Thank you for asking. Who's next? Oh, John.
Can you reiterate the question? What was the question exactly?
Like, how did you, like, kind of, when did your relationship, or, like, how did your relationship with music begin? Like, did you come from a musical family, or, like, how did the background start for you?
I guess for me, very musical family. My dad was especially obsessed with rock and roll and, like, would put on, like, Jimi Hendrix and, like, play it up to, like, my mom's stomach when she was pregnant. He was like, I have to play this, and, like, playing, like, records, and, like, he was just blasting. So I grew up around a lot of bikers. My parents were, like, bikers. And so there was a lot of classic rock, a lot of music, and, like, a lot of, like, being on the back of my dad's motorcycle and him just blasting Leonard Skinner and stuff like that. So I would say, honestly, it probably started with his, like, obsession with music, and that really, like, wore off on me, just seeing his, like, fixation on it and stuff. And he played guitar too when I was young. And he sold his whole guitar rig 1 month before I started playing guitar. And when I started, he was like, I would have given you my guitar and my amp, and he had really nice equipment, but he sold it. But yeah, I think it started there, and then playing started with my best friend. Like, he would play with the guitar on his lap, and it only had 3 strings, and I came to his house one day after school, and he would play with his thumb, and the guitar was like laid out flat on his lap. I was like, that is so cool. And he would just be like, ba, 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 like playing with his thumb. I was like, you gotta show me that, brother. That is cool. So we would sit with our guitars, and I would play with my thumb. And he kind of taught me how to play, actually. And then, so that friend and I, like, we played in bands together for years. And, like, I really fell in love with playing music with that friend group. And we would play for, like, 6-7 hours a day, like, rotating between drums, bass, and guitar. So, like, my musical knowledge and, like, understanding really came from, like, just learning songs with them and switching and, like, playing drums and guitar and stuff. That was, like, super crucial. It's, like, a lot of my learning was done, like, with other people and, like, in the moment, like, playing with other people. And I think that really influenced, like, how I relate to, like, playing music.
Yeah. And so how did you guys come up with the name Sadurn?
Well, I'll tell you about that. Basically, we got this cease and desist from DJ Vive. And he sent me this intimidating legal message through Facebook. And he said, this is what it's going to look like when my lawyer sends you the real one. And he said, you have a week to change your name and your URLs. And yeah, and honestly, I had that name lying around. Like, I had mentioned it to Tab before. I was like, what about this thing? You know, but I tried to come up with other names. I think I just didn't really have much. It's one of the hardest things is naming a project. And so it kind of just was like, you know, what one of the few ideas that I had, but there wasn't much significance to it at all, I guess. Yeah. I also wanted to say my musical history, which is that I also started playing guitar really late. And I was singing. We had like a piano in my house growing up, and so I would like try to play that. And I was singing through, you know, whatever school, high school, and college. And then and I guess I started trying to write songs when I was little, but I didn't really have like something to, you know, I was just singing. So it was kind of hard. And then after I graduated college, I moved in with someone who had a guitar that she wasn't using. And so I like I actually was inspired to start learning guitar by the album Trouble Will Find Me by The National, which is a beautiful record. So I tried to learn all the songs on that album. And so freaking beautiful.
Beautiful as ass.
It's
I'm pissed off by how
I'm pissed off.
I can't remember
What I'm allowed to say and not allowed to say. It's that's a damn good album.
I'll tell you where you can find it. I won't tell you where.
Anyways, whoops. Okay, so I don't know. I just started playing guitar, and then as soon as I could kind of play guitar a little bit, I started trying to write songs on guitar. And then I moved to Philly, and I was like around more people that were doing that, and that is the history. Yeah, and that's also the history of the name, is just the cease and desist and the lack of ideas. But yeah, there's not much behind it. I'll say that. There's not much.
We are going to take a quick break to listen to Ice Pick off of Sadurn's 2022 album Radiator.
Sometimes it gets so quiet. walk down to the basement and try to find the light switch and look for reassurance, but I can't reassure you if I don't believe it. I know there's some distance, but I was gonna ride it. But you and I are good friends. Sometimes we're in love and it feels almost like nothing I'm ever gonna find again. And I even met your parents, even though they're homophobic. And it took almost a year for you to tell them we were dating. And your mind is like a fishnet, and mine is like an ice pick. Sometimes it really works and sometimes it leaves us hanging. And I get so frustrated about your communication, but I know you can't help it. I'm not really trying to change it. But you and I are good friends. Sometimes we're in love and it feels really important, like I never wanna lose it. And you even met my family, even though they are chaotic, even though I keep them distant and never go to Massachusetts. And your mind is like a fishnet, and mine is like an ice pick. Sometimes it's not enough, and sometimes I think it's perfect. And I get so messed up 'cause I don't know if it's working. I'm standing by the window, I can't wait to let the light in. Can't wait to let the light in.
So when it comes to writing the songs, do you generally like write from like experience you have, or is it kind of like, I guess, ideas that aren't necessarily like something that you did experience, but like something, I don't know, you think of?
Like abstracted or like
Yeah.
stories. Yeah. I think it's so cool when people do that. I think it's so cool when people can even like take a prompt and like write a song about something, like a made up character or like a book they were inspired by. I simply cannot do that at all.
Yeah.
It's like not in my wheelhouse. I can only write from experience. It's like, I think that writing songs is like more, it's kind of like a part of like a processing kind of, you know, endeavor,
Yeah.
like kind of cathartic processing of feelings and events. And so I feel like it tends to be just straight from what's going on. I mean, I think that there is that little wiggly territory of like sometimes your songwriting and like things just are kind of slipping out of your head, like that, like maybe there is like meaning that happens like afterwards, like you're not really thinking about it at all if you're like playing guitar and some like random words come out. That's definitely a part of it too, but I would say that I can't like write a whole song that way. Like it has to kind of coalesce around a real feeling that I'm like currently processing, I guess. Does anyone else want to talk about songwriting? Because I guess this is like my songwriting project, but I want to say everyone in the project has their own songwriting project.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all songwriters. Okay.
And so to me, Radiator kind of feels like one of those albums that's super like really like full and cohesive like as a whole. And so like when like choosing the order of the songs, like what songs you do include in the album, like for example, like the beginning and like ending songs, were they written specifically for like the place they will hold in the album, or like out of the songs that you kind of had, did they just like fit best in those places?
It was the latter. I would say that we didn't know we were making an album when we did it. The process was like we were going to record some of the full band songs we had just thrown together, and then because of the pandemic and just us being like isolated from each other and needing to go through all these like intense logistics in order to actually get together in one space for a few weeks to make the album, we decided that just because of the intensity of the situation that we should record enough songs for an album to like even just make the whole thing worth it. So we pulled like we had these newer songs we were going to record, and we also pulled like some kind of bedroom folk demos that I had made on my own on GarageBand, and like we messed around with those. And we asked around. But yeah, so it was none of the songs were written with the idea that they would be on an album. And that's funny because now that's how we're making music, and now that there's like a contract to make albums, that is changing the writing in a way, because it's like, oh, these songs are for the next album. And honestly, I think it's I'm excited about the newer stuff, but I think that generally that feels like a detriment to the writing process, because it like adds like a layer of like thinking about the externality of the song that I have to kind of try and tune out.
Yeah. I like to ask artists about their album art because I think it's really interesting. So, could you, I guess, provide some context for the photo that says Sadurn, the Radiator album art?
Yeah, I took the photo on the front, and it was just a photo from. Okay, yeah, we went swimming, but okay, I'll give this context because it's kind of nice. It's like I wanted to get a film camera because I wanted to interview people eating fast food at rest stops on the turnpike, and I wanted to like take pictures of them and like do an interview, and I wanted to have like a whole series, but I also just wanted to get more into like taking photos. And my friends Jack and Mel got me this like old film camera, and then we had it this day we were swimming. That's why I had the camera, and I just took all these photos, and then you kind of like G kind of picked it out of like just a bunch of photos from a day of us like swimming and like hanging out. And
Yeah.
G was whistling, I think.
Yeah, I was teaching our friend how to whistle, and she's in the photo but like cropped out of it.
Oh, and you can see the roof of my Honda Fit, and I was an Uber driver at the time, and I would Uber 6 hours a day in that Honda Fit.
John was Ubering. Yeah, that was it wasn't taken like, oh, we're gonna take pictures for an album. Like, it was before we made the album. It was before the concept of the album existed. So it was just like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like I had to like choose a picture and chose that one, and then like made the other art elements, I guess.
am curious about what has like influenced your like I guess singing style, because I guess you like have like a twang when you sing, but you're definitely not from the South. So kind of, is that an intentional choice you made, or like is it something like I guess you were trying to like imitate a certain sound, or like kind of I guess how did that come about?
That's so funny. I knew someone was going to ask me about this at some point. It's actually this really embarrassing thing where, like, when I, like, sing, like, other people's songs, like, we've covered a couple songs, Ohio songs, you know, we're covering a Gillian Welch song for this tour. I'm always, like, not intentionally, you know, but, like, without much self-control, like I'm just kind of imitating other people's vocal styles when I'm covering their songs. And so I feel like that kind of like, I don't know how to describe this, but I really like imitating sounds just in general in my life, like bird noises or like stuff like that. But I think that tendency has crept into like how I write music, and I feel like when I'm writing, it's like there's a certain like kind of singing that goes with the song, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I really need to like make sure that this isn't like over the top later on when I think about it, but like I'm not thinking about it when I'm writing the song, you know? It's kind of just like whatever is happening, and I you know, I'm like not really specifically trying to do anything, but you know, I think on Radiator, if you like listen to it, that like depending on the song, depending what instrument I wrote on, depending like kind of what style it's in, like it's like there's just different vocal techniques that I'm using or styles, and I would say it's kind of embarrassing but like, you know, what are you gonna do? I don't really, I guess I just don't think about it that much. Maybe I should.
I found Amelia's project before I found Saturn's, actually.
Cool.
And so I had a question about that. So your last album was
That's
released
wild.
the same year as Radiator,
Mm-hmm.
and I was wondering, like, which was recorded first? Like, did you create your own album first, or had you recorded Radiator first?
So we recorded Radiator in the fall of 2020, and I recorded my last album the spring of 2022. So I recorded mine way after, but I released it pretty much at the same time because I didn't have to wait for a record label to put it out. I could just put it out. But I think I was like, I talked about this jealousy earlier. I think part of it was like, oh, G's gonna put out an album? I'm gonna put out an album. But I think I just started dating somebody. I really wanted to impress them. And I had a lot of crush juice from just like crushing on them. So I was like, oh, maybe they'll think I'm cool if I like make this album. I don't know. That's my story. It worked. We're still dating. We're in love. But I was with my music, I think it's similar to G's songwriting, where it's like I have to be like actively processing an intense feeling and then like write the song sort of as like a way of expressing and putting that into words. And I think I was just pretty inspired by like, you know, having worked on this Sadurn record for so long and just sitting with the songs and kind of just being like, wow, this is such a work of art and it's so powerfully emotional. And I kind of was very influenced by that when I was making my record. And I'm actually making a new one. So
Interesting. As Saturn makes a new record, Amelia makes a new record too.
every aspect of my life and creative process is fueled by jealousy and trying to get people to like me.
I'm just gonna say that that's a joke because Amelia's always doing the coolest. She's actually one of the most like just motivated to do. I mean I get it. I know Crush Juice really does a lot when it comes to motivating you and your little projects. Can you say frickin'?
Yeah.
Your little frickin' projects. Your little ass projects. Yeah, Amelia's, yeah. She's good. She's really good.
How did you hear about my project?
Honestly, I don't know. I actually think I played Corn Maze on like one of my very first like radio shows.
No way.
Yeah, I like because for WKNC, it's like focuses on more like underground, I guess, like artists. Like the biggest I can play someone like Big Thief, but like that's like about the max.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of had to do some digging, and I honestly don't know. I think I might have found it on, it's like this website, I think it's what, Every Noise at Once. It like, it'll show you, like you can click on like one artist and it'll show you like a map of like other artists similar to it.
What?
And I think I probably found you on there, but I'm not 100% sure.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But I have a few questions about your own, I guess, music listening habits. Could you guys share one of or a few of your favorite musicians of all time?
I love this question so much.
Yeah, that's a great question.
I think, well, first of all, I think the members of Sadurn are my favorite musicians of all time. They're all so talented and perfect. And it's truly an honor to be playing with them. But I think just going first, my top inspiration is Young Lean. I don't know if y'all listen to Young Lean, but he's from Sweden. He's literally a genius. And he really packs a lot of emotionality into his work. And I think that is so powerful, is to just like, to start from just being emotional and make work out of that. Feels very compelling to me. But okay, passing it to John.
Okay, so I guess someone who comes to mind is like, I felt really inspired by Michael Hurley recently in my life. Have you heard of Michael Hurley? He's like a folk singer. He's 82 and he's been making incredible albums for like so many decades. And he has this way of like writing these beautifully like melancholic, but also very funny and goofy, and, like charming folk songs. And I think like lately I've been thinking a lot about how hard it is to like be funny in songs.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a like thin line between being corny and just bobo. It's such a tightrope, such a hard like balancing act. And I think he's like one of the best, and he's underrated, and he had an interesting career where he was like virtually unknown for like most of his life. And then, I mean, people loved his music, but in the last like 20 years, he was like, he got a booking agent and people started putting him out there, and he was like been playing a lot more shows and touring, and he's like, that was in his 70s, he's 82. It's just, his whole story to me is really inspiring. And yeah, I think it's a real feat when someone can write a beautiful song and it's also like layered in that way where it's like comedic, and it's like, because I feel like that is like a full like spectrum thing. Like I feel like there's a vastness to that really hits me hard, and I don't think a lot of people can do that. So yeah, I've been really into his songwriting.
Yeah.
Not to be like every other indie head in the world right now, but I am wearing a Big Thief shirt, and so I think I must admit that I'm a very big fan of Big Thief and Adrian Lenker. This question's always so hard for me because I feel like I have to like, or I feel a pressure to like be cool. And I honestly have kind of in my recent like since 2020, honestly, I've kind of like let go of the reins of like what I'm listening to, and I like rely pretty heavily on like whoever I'm hanging out with to DJ for me. And I like kind of consistently come back to like only a couple of things, and like one of those things is Big Thief.
Yeah.
There's a Broadcast album I really love. I'm also notoriously terrible at remembering the names of things, so I'm not going to be able to tell you which one it is.
Yeah.
And like Lamelda is another big name for me. I feel really inspired by their music in my own songwriting. Yeah, those are a couple big ones that come up.
The question was top
Like,
of all time.
Yeah.
I feel like usually my answer when I think about it is like Jason Molina, Gillian Welch, Elliott Smith, Alex G. Yeah. Those are some of my favorite songwriters of all time.
I have one last question for you guys. So you guys are playing All Things Go in September, and there's a crazy lineup. So I was wondering if there's like any like musician or band that's playing that you hope to see if you're there, or like, I don't know, any other artists that you really like who are also playing.
This is so funny because when I saw the lineup, I was like, who the heck are any of these people? I had not heard of any of them. Some of them I'd heard of, like Janelle Monáe I had heard of. But like there's, I was just like, Hozier. I'd heard, I know Hozier. But like I was like, what the heck is this lineup? And all the ones that people are excited about, what is it? Chapel Rowan.
I have a lot to say on this.
Okay, so I'm going to pass this. I'm going to pass this because this question is not for me.
Luckily, we're playing on Saturday. We're playing on the second. We're playing on the second day of the festival, which happens to be what I would consider a lesbian mecca, where Chapel Rowan is playing, Japanese House is playing. Their recent album is like a or is about their polyamorous relationship with a couple. Love that. Soccer Mommy is playing, and we're playing, so I'm really excited to see Chapel Rowan. I'm obsessed with her, as I'm sure all of us are right now. And so that's really who I'm looking forward to the most, with the Japanese House and Soccer Mommy coming up pretty close.
I am super excited to see Ethel Cain as
Yes.
another trans person. I think that is so sick to have trans people be really big and popular and featured at festivals. But I have to say I'm even more excited about seeing Sammy Ray. I don't know if anybody likes Sammy Ray. My whole family, we always listen to Sammy Ray together when we're driving in the car and when we're cooking and stuff. And my family, they live in Minneapolis, and they're actually all coming down to DC to come see us at this festival. And I'm so excited to just stand in the audience and watch Sammy Ray with them. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be really special. So I'm really excited we get to be a part of that festival. WKNC! You're listening to the interview with Sadurn.
This has been another episode of the Stripdown with DJ Ocean Spray. A huge shout out to Sadurn for sitting down with me and letting me chat with you guys before your show. You guys are actually so awesome, and it's really cool getting to meet musicians that I actually listen to quite a bit. It's just really awesome. So thank you so much. But I will be sending the listeners off with one more song by Sadurn today, and it is Snake off of Radiator. You are listening to WKNC 88.1 FM HD1 Raleigh, and this is DJ Ocean Spray. Thank you so much.
Honey, I was wrong. I had to walk down to turn, get a good look at my ways, and hell, maybe I've learned something from bringing out my shame. I had to lay down with her if just to see it was the same thing that got me before. Honey, I was right. I thought about it all night. I looked the snake right in his face. I've seen the way he blinks that eye at me, but I'm not afraid. I've heard we're all gonna die in a cascade of system failure or in the blink of an eye. Honey, I would bet that I'd be just as upset. I'd be at least as mad as you were when we crawled into my bed. Oh, but I do regret running right up to the red. I hope the waters down in Assateague are clear in your head. Maybe it was wrong to meet you out in state college as if we were still together, like I was your only option, but I'm not. And you know that I'm not as true as I thought, but I still drive for several hours on a dime if you dropped it. Honey, you were kind to tell me that it's alright. I know my fault is that I speak every damn thought in my mind, but I want you to know that I'll be holding that line, and I believe in all your mercy and in the weight of the tide as it is pulling you back towards me. You know that I am always yours if you'll still have me, though you're tired from that long walk away.